Hello, friends, and welcome back to another set of malicious compliance stories. Our story today takes place at an Italian restaurant where one server's only crime was offering cheese. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. When dinner turns into a sociology lecture. I work at a very popular corporate Italian restaurant that's famous for its soups, salads, and endless breadsticks. You know the type: dim lighting, too much olive oil on everything, and a dining room that smells like Parmesan and nostalgia. One of our signature things, though, is the tableside cheese grating. Every server carries around one of those metal cheese graters with a handle, and when you bring out someone's food, you ask the classic line, "Would you like some cheese?" Then you grate it right onto their meal while they tell you when to stop. Some people just want to sprinkle, others will let you turn the entire block into snow. It's simple, harmless, and honestly kind of fun. So last week I get this young couple, both maybe mid-20s. The woman was super sweet, friendly smile, said please and thank you, the kind of customer you want to clone. The guy, though, something about him was off. He was fidgety, nervous, kind of twitchy. I thought maybe he was just anxious or hangry. They order soup for their first course. When I bring it out, I ask the usual, "Would you like some cheese on your soup?" The woman says yes. The guy looks me dead in the eye and goes, "I want a bowl of cheese. You should be used to grating it in the back." I pause. "In the back?" "Yeah," he says, grate it in the kitchen or something, not here." Now I'm confused, because literally the whole point is to do it at the table. I tell him, "Oh, I can grate however much you'd like, just tell me when." He stares at me like I just insulted his ancestors. "You're gonna do it at the table?" Yeah, that's kind of what we do here," I reply, trying to keep it light. "If you'd rather, I can grab you some of our to-go cheese packets instead." He doesn't answer right away, just looks annoyed. His girlfriend, clearly embarrassed, says, "It's fine, honey, just let him grate it." So I grate some cheese for both of them, smile, thank them, and go about my business. I even bring a few extra cheese packets anyway to smooth things over. The rest of the meal's quiet. Every time I stop by the table, the woman is polite, but the guy looks more irritated than before. When I bring out their main course, I offer cheese again because that's part of the job. He says yes in a tone that suggests I'm personally offending him by asking, so I grate away, then leave them to eat. By the end, I think we're done. Nope, he asked to speak to the manager. Now, I've been doing this long enough to know that when someone asks for the manager, it's usually one of two things. They want to complain or they want free dessert. But this guy didn't seem like the complimentary tiramisu type. My manager heads over and they talk for what feels like an eternity, 7, maybe 8 minutes. Then my manager calls me over to the service area. All my coworkers are huddled around because apparently this guy was furious. My manager looks at me and says, completely deadpan, "OP, if you ever grate cheese at the table again and degrade our customers like that, you're fired." The whole team bursts out laughing. Turns out the guy wasn't mad about the food or the service. No, he was mad because I grated cheese in front of his girlfriend. According to him, it was inappropriate and degrading. Why? Because he was white, she was black, and apparently watching a white server grate cheese for her was, in his words, like a slavery thing. I just stood there speechless. My manager said the girlfriend looked mortified and kept apologizing for him while he ranted about racial sensitivity. So to recap, this man seriously expected me to telepathically understand that Parmesan cheese could trigger the historical trauma of slavery. I feel awful for the poor girl. She seemed like she wanted to sink into the floor and never resurface. Meanwhile, we all got a lecture afterward, not from management, but from the servers joking that I needed implicit bias cheese training. So yeah, apparently grating cheese at the table is now controversial. Who knew? Let's be real. The second he said, "grate it in the back," every Italian ancestor in the universe probably gasped in unison. Like, how do you even make cheese weird? She's embarrassed, the staff's confused, and the guy over here's trying to fight centuries of racism with a cheese grater. And our second story. Customer called the police because her washer delivery was 5 minutes late. So I've worked at a major appliance store in the Midwest for about 15 years. I started in the warehouse with inventory management, moved into delivery/install, and am now a salesman. I've seen customers from all aspects of the process and never thought I would have a story worth posting here until tonight. One of my coworkers has been dealing with a woman purchasing a washer. It's one of our least expensive machines we carry, so it's usually not that much of an issue. The problem is this woman refuses to come to the store or do credit cards over the phone, so after numerous phone calls, we were able to finalize the sale and she was going to mail a check. The check was mailed on a Friday night and she called about 6 times on Saturday to see if we had received it yet. We had to tell her each time that it takes more than half a day to get here, but she continued to call and check. The problem with this is she had to go over each charge, from confirming the price of the unit, her delivery fee, the tax total, the coupon she had, and rattle off those multiple times during each call. We finally got the check and told her we would be out today. We thought it was over. I'm sitting at my desk and I see her name pop up. Unfortunately, I'm dealing with another issue, so I had to let it go to voicemail. I wasn't too heartbroken. We then get a call from an unfamiliar number. I answer, and it's her city's police department. That's right, she called the police because her delivery was taking longer than the ETA given to her that morning. We had to get the installer info and delivery guidelines to the police so they could contact her and reassure her of the delivery. I've been here a long time and never had to deal with the police over a late delivery of a $400 washer, so I felt I needed to share. Somewhere out there's a dispatcher who had to type the words washer delivery delay under nature of emergency, and that's beautiful. At least you've got the ultimate workplace flex. You've officially seen someone treat Whirlpool like it's FBI business. And our next story. Sir, I'm going to say this in the nicest way possible, but what? A couple days ago, I was working my retail job, facing the groceries in the aisle. I was on the ground doing my thing and minding my own business when a relatively old gentleman with a cart came up to me and asked, "Do you know where I can find the Wafer cookies?" Now, for reference, most of our sweets are located in the frozen aisle. I've informed many customers of this fact, and more often than not, they managed to find what they were looking for. And what luck for this gentleman, the frozen aisle was right next to the aisle I was currently working. So I said, "In the frozen aisle, sir." Now, I expected him to say thank you and go to the frozen aisle to collect his sugary treats. However, he didn't say thank you. Instead, what he said next left me dumbfounded for one of the very few times in my life. "That's too far. Can you please tell me somewhere else?" What? I don't know what he was expecting me to say. We have certain products in certain aisles, and we have most of our sweets in the frozen aisle. Not to mention, I knew what I was talking about since I've seen the Wafer cookies in the frozen aisle on numerous occasions. And don't even get me started on his whole "that's too far" thing. It's the next aisle over. It only takes a few seconds to walk to the next aisle over. Granted, probably slightly longer if you're disabled, which this gentleman was not. However, I decided to give this gentleman the benefit of the doubt and assume he thought I was talking about the area where we keep the meats and cheeses, which is slightly cooled but not frozen. So I said, "The next aisle over." He then said, "You're not getting it," and walked away. Under my breath, I said, "Well, F to you too," and just went back to work. This reminds me of the time the guy on the checkout packing my bag said, "Be careful with this bag, it's got a leak in it." I thought he was being serious and just said, "Oh, okay." But when I got home, all my groceries were fine, and that's when the penny dropped. I indeed bought a leak. And our last story. Karen built an illegal chicken coop to spite us. When my spouse and I bought our house 2 years ago, a cozy home backed by a patch of woods and a small hill, that peace lasted exactly until Karen moved in behind us. At first, she seemed harmless enough. Then her kids started sneaking into our backyard. Every day, we'd look outside and see him and his little gang, 6 of them total, squeezing through the gaps in our fence, running across our lawn, touching our car, tossing snack wrappers into our flower beds. I tried to be understanding. They were kids after all, but after one of them smacked a rock against my car door, my patience evaporated. I went over to Karen and explained calmly that I didn't want the kids in our yard. Her response? "Well, we try, but he's 4. He's going to go where he wants." Right, because a 4-year-old clearly has teleportation powers and zero parental supervision. We started avoiding the backyard altogether until last month when we finally decided to reclaim it. My wife and I set up a small patio table, planted herbs, and were finally enjoying quiet dinners outdoors. Then, like clockwork, Karen appeared at the fence. She announced that she and her husband were planning to build a chicken coop just a few feet from your patio. I glanced at their yard, a massive property twice the size of ours, and realized she had acres of space to choose from, but she wanted it right behind our house. She handed me a clipboard and said they needed our signatures for town approval. I told her we'd think about it. Then I asked again for her to please keep her kid out of our yard because of the broken patio stones. She laughed like I just asked her to donate a kidney. A week later, while we were away on vacation, she made her move. When we got back, there it was, a brand new chicken coop. The coop was illegally close to our fence, maybe 3 feet away. My wife and I just stared in disbelief. My wife, being a lawyer, didn't even speak at first. She just went inside, grabbed her laptop, and started typing. She pulled the zoning regulations, noise ordinances, and property setback laws. Turned out Karen was violating at least 3 local codes. So we decided to do things by the book. We filed a complaint with the town's zoning department and attached photos, measurements, and decibel readings from one of those noise meter apps. Within a week, an inspector came by. Karen tried to charm him, of course, with her overblown friendliness and oopsie, I didn't know act. But when he measured the distance from the fence, his expression said it all. She was fined $500 in order to move the coop 25 feet from the property line. Karen didn't take it well. That evening, she stood in her yard screaming across the fence that we'd ruined her family project. She claimed her chickens were emotional support animals and accused us of discriminating against her lifestyle. She even called the police one night, insisting our motion sensor lights were targeting her poultry. The officer took one look at the setup and told her to stop wasting their time. But the real circus started when she tried to get revenge. She began blasting country music toward our house at sunrise, claiming the hens liked it. She dumped bags of feed near the fence so wild birds would swarm into our yard. One night we found chicken droppings shoveled over into our flower bed. That was her breaking point. Not mine, because my wife documented everything. When animal control showed up the next week armed with that evidence, they were not amused. Turns out Karen had more birds than legally allowed and no proper permits. They fined her again, warned her about sanitation, and told her if she kept it up, they'd revoke her right to keep livestock altogether. Karen lost it completely. She came to our door pounding on it, yelling that we destroyed her home life and that her son was traumatized because we hate animals. My wife opened the door just enough to hand her a copy of the municipal violation notice and said, Karen, the only animal I hate is the one trespassing on my property. And I'm not talking about the chickens. Then she shut the door. Since then, Karen's been quieter. Her son still occasionally tries to wander into our yard, but a new, sturdier fence put an end to that. She glares at us whenever we're outside, sometimes muttering under her breath about selfish neighbors. But that's fine. She didn't sell the house. Oh no, she's still there, still stewing on that hill with her emotional support chickens. I love how every Karen has the same playbook. Step 1, ignore the rules. Step 2, cry discrimination when the rules apply to them. She really tried to make chickens a civil rights issue. And I can't get over her saying the chickens were emotional support animals. Emotional support for who? The 4-year-old vandal? The music? The chaos? Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.